Welcome to the YouTube channel, Contact Center Knowledge Hub, your one-stop solution for expert guidance, best practices, and actionable knowledge in the world of contact centers. Explore, learn, and enhance contact center skills. Let's discuss logistic regression in forecasting in depth. In this section, we'll introduce logistic regression. Logistic regression is a statistical method used to predict the probability of a categorical outcome. Most commonly, a binary outcome such as yes or no, 0 or 1, success or fail. This is very different from linear regression, which predicts continuous values like revenue, call volume, or AHT. Linear regression answers questions like, what will the value be next month? Logistic regression, on the other hand, answers, how likely is this event to happen? Instead of predicting a number like 10,000 calls, logistic regression predicts a probability between 0 and 1. For example, a 70% chance that a customer will churn. Because it predicts likelihoods, classifications, and event probabilities. Logistic regression has become a cornerstone of predictive analytics and AI systems. In forecasting and risk modeling, logistic regression helps us answer questions such as, how likely is a customer to churn in the next 30 days? What is the probability of a payment default for this account? What is the chance that this lead will convert into a sale? How likely is a call to escalate to a supervisor? What is the probability that an agent will resign in the next quarter, that is, agent attrition? In all these cases, the outcome is event versus no event. And logistic regression gives us a clear, numeric probability that we can use to classify, prioritize, and take proactive action. Now let's see what logistic regression actually does behind the scenes. Logistic regression models the probability of an event using something called the logistic or sigmoid function. Mathematically, we write the probability that y equals 1 as p of y equals 1 is equal to 1 divided by 1 plus e to the power of minus z. Here, e is the natural exponential constant, and z is just a linear combination of predictors written as z is equal to a plus b1 times x1 plus b2 times x2 and so on up to bn times xn. So first, we take our usual regression style expression and intercept a plus coefficients b1, b2, b3 multiplied by predictors x1, x2, x3, etc. Then we pass that value of z through the logistic function. This does three important things. The output is always between 0 and 1. So it behaves naturally as a probability. It converts a linear combination of predictors into a probability, taking a familiar regression setup and turning it into a likelihood. It is ideal for forecasting classification outcomes, situations where the result is event versus no event, such as churn versus no churn, default versus no default. A simple example. We can use logistic regression to model the probability that a customer will call again tomorrow, based on their past behavior, recent interactions, complaints, and usage pattern. The model takes those predictors, builds the linear score Z, applies the logistic function, and gives us a clean probability. For example, a 65% chance that this customer will contact us again. That is what logistic regression is doing under the hood, turning a weighted combination of drivers into a probability of an event. Now let's understand why logistic regression is so important in forecasting. The key reason is this. Many real business outcomes are categorical, not numeric. We are often not asking, what exact number will we get? We are asking which category will this fall into, or will this event happen or not? Let's look at a few examples. Binary outcome. Will the customer churn? Yes or no? Event likelihood. Will this call or lead convert into a sale? Risk probability. Will this payment default? Is this account high risk or low risk? Classification. Will this case escalate to a supervisor or stay at frontline? In all of these situations, we are not predicting a continuous value like revenue or volume. Instead, we want a probability. How likely is this outcome? Logistic regression is designed exactly for this type of forecasting. It takes in the predictors like usage, complaints, payment history, tenure, or sentiment, and it forecasts the probability of each categorical outcome. So instead of saying, the forecast is 10,000, logistic regression says, there is a 75% chance this customer will churn, or this lead has a 60% probability of converting. That's why logistic regression is widely used in churn prediction, default risk, conversion modeling, escalation prediction, and attrition forecasting. It gives us actionable probabilities, not just numbers, which we can use to prioritize work, target interventions, and manage risk proactively. Let's now look at the main types of logistic regression you'll see in practice. Type 1 Binary Logistic Regression. This is the most widely used form. It is used when there are two possible outcomes, 0 or 1, no or yes, fail or success. Examples include, will the customer churn? Yes or no. Will the payment default? Yes or no. Binary logistic regression is the standard workhorse in churn, risk, and conversion models. Type 2 Multinomial logistic regression. This is used when there are more than two categories, and these categories do not have a natural order. For example, low, medium, high intent. Product A, Product B, Product C. Channel choice, voice, chat, email, WhatsApp. Multinomial logistic regression helps us model the probability of each category and decide which class is most likely for a given customer or case. Type 3 Ordinal logistic regression. This is used when the outcomes are ordered categories. There is a natural ranking, but the distance between levels is not numeric. For example, SLA risk, low, medium, high. Customer satisfaction, very dissatisfied, dissatisfied, neutral, satisfied, very satisfied. Priority level, P3, P2, P1. Ordinal logistic regression respects this ordering and models the probability of being in each level of the scale. To summarize, use binary logistic regression for two outcomes. Use multinomial logistic regression for three or more unordered categories. Use ordinal logistic regression when the categories are ranked or ordered, like risk levels or priority bands. Now let's look a bit deeper at the logistic regression equation and what it really means. The core equation is written in terms of something called the logit of P. We write logit of P equals natural log of P divided by 1 minus P. And this equals a plus B1 times X1 plus B2 times X2 and so on up to Bn times Xn. Let's break this down. First, P is the probability that Y equals 1. For example, the probability that a customer churns or that a payment defaults. Logit of P means the log odds of the event. It's the natural logarithm of P over 1 minus P. In simple terms, it's just another way of expressing probability, but on an unbounded scale. X1 to Xn are our predictor variables. Things like tenure, usage, complaints, payment history, campaign exposure, and so on. The constants A, B1, B2, up to Bn are the coefficients that the model learns. So what is actually happening? Logistic regression does not directly model the probability P as a straight line. Instead, it models the log odds of the event as a linear combination of the predictors. That is what the equation on the right-hand side represents. Then, we apply the sigmoid, or logistic, transformation to those log odds to convert them back into a clean probability between 0 and 1. So the workflow is: take the predictors and combine them linearly. A plus B1 X1 plus B2 X2, and so on. Interpret that as the log odds of the event. Pass it through the logistic function to get P, the actual probability. In short, the model first predicts log odds, and then the sigmoid transformation converts those log odds into a usable probability that we can act on for classification, risk scoring, and decision making. Now let's learn how to interpret coefficients in logistic regression. This is very important for business use. In logistic regression, each coefficient, which we call BI, answers this question: how do the log odds of the event change when Xi increases by 1 unit? Remember, the model is working in log odds space. But log odds are not very intuitive for most people. So we usually convert the coefficient into something easier to explain, called the odds ratio. We do this by exponentiating the coefficient. In other words, we calculate e to the power of bi. Mathematically, odds ratio is equal to e raised to the power bi. Let's take a simple interpretation example. Suppose the coefficient b for a predictor is 0.7. We compute the odds ratio as e to the power 0.7, which is approximately 2.01. What does this mean in plain language? It means that when x increases by 1 unit, the odds of the event happening are multiplied by about 2. In other words, the odds of the event roughly double for every 1 unit increase in that predictor, assuming all other variables stay the same. This ability to convert coefficients into clear odds ratios is a big reason why logistic regression is a favorite in business analytics. It gives us transparent, easy to explain impact measures that executives and stakeholders can understand. We've seen where logistic regression works well. Now let's be clear about when not to use logistic regression. First, do not use logistic regression when you're predicting continuous metrics. If your target is call volume, AHT, revenue, handle time, or any continuous number, logistic regression is the wrong tool. In those cases, you should use linear regression or time series models instead. Second, avoid logistic regression when relationships are highly nonlinear. Logistic regression assumes a fairly smooth, S-shaped relationship between the predictors and the event probability. If the true pattern is very complex or highly nonlinear, then tree-based models, ensemble methods, or neural networks will usually perform better. Third, be cautious when the data is extremely imbalanced. For example, if only 1% of customers churn and 99% stay, standard logistic regression can struggle. It may just learn to predict no event almost all the time. In such cases, we often need techniques like SMOTE for oversampling, class weighting, or even alternate modeling approaches better suited to rare events. Fourth, avoid logistic regression when many predictors are strongly correlated with each other. When there is high multicollinearity, coefficients become unstable and hard to interpret. Small changes in data can cause big swings in impact estimates. In such scenarios, you may need feature selection, regularized models like Lasso or Ridge, or tree-based algorithms that are more robust to correlated features. So, in summary, logistic regression is not the right choice when you need to predict continuous numbers. The relationships are highly nonlinear. The dataset is extremely imbalanced without proper treatment, or many predictors are strongly correlated with each other. Knowing these boundaries helps you choose the right tool for the right forecasting problem.
Let's start with step 1 in the logistic regression forecasting process. Define the outcome Y. In logistic regression, Y is always an event indicator. It tells us whether something did or did not happen. For example, in a churn model, we define the outcome as, will the customer churn in the next 30 days? As a binary variable. 1 equals yes, the customer churns. 0 equals no, the customer stays. Getting this definition right is critical because everything else in the model, the predictors we choose, the probabilities we forecast, and the actions we take, are all built around this one outcome.
Now let's move to step 2 in the logistic regression forecasting process. Select the predictors, the XS. Predictors are the drivers or signals that help the model decide whether the event is likely to happen or not. In a customer churn example, these predictors capture behavior, satisfaction, and risk. Here are some common predictors. Number of complaints. More complaints usually indicate frustration and dissatisfaction, which increases the chance of churn. Average handling time. Very high AHT might reflect complex issues or poor experience, while very low AHT might signal rushed interactions. Both can influence churn risk. CSAT score. Lower CSAT scores are a strong warning sign that a customer is not happy and may be considering leaving. Login hours or usage level. Changes in usage, either sharp drops or unusual patterns, can indicate disengagement and potential churn. Previous purchase history. Frequency, recency, and value of past purchases tell us how engaged and valuable the customer is. Certain patterns can be linked with higher or lower churn risk. Billing failures or payment issues. Repeated failed payments, card declines, or billing disputes are classic risk signals for both churn and default. In step 2, your goal is to carefully choose the XS that make business sense and have a logical connection to the outcome. These predictors are the inputs the logistic regression model will use to estimate the probability of churn for each customer. Now we move to step 3 in the logistic regression forecasting process. fit the logistic model using maximum likelihood estimation. At this stage, we take a historical dataset, which already contains the outcome y, for example, churn is equal to 1, no churn is equal to 0, and all the predictors x to x. And we feed it into our analytics software, Excel add-ins, Python, R, or a BI tool. The software then uses a method called maximum likelihood estimation, or MLE, to find the best fitting coefficients, the intercept, A, and the B values for each predictor. In simple language, MLE asks, given these coefficients, how likely is it that we would see the churn patterns we actually observed in history? It then searches for the values of A and Bs that maximize this likelihood. In other words, the values that make our observed data most probable under the model. You don't have to do this math manually. The software runs the optimization in the background and returns the final coefficients, and usually the p-values and other diagnostics we'll use later. The output of step 3 is crucial. We now have a trained logistic model with concrete values for A, B, ready to convert inputs into event probabilities in the next steps. Now let's move to step 4 in the logistic regression forecasting process. Convert log odds to probability using the sigmoid function. After we fit the logistic model, it first produces a score in log odds space. This score is calculated as A plus Bx plus Bx plus Bx. This value is called Z, and it represents the log odds of the event happening. But log odds are not intuitive for business users. We don't want log odds, we want a clear probability between 0 and 1. To do this, we apply the sigmoid function, also called the logistic function. The sigmoid function is P is equal to 1 plus E, Z. In simple words, we take the log odds score Z, plug it into the sigmoid formula, and the output is P, a clean probability. For example, 0.18, 0.45, or 0.78. So, in step 4, the model is doing a translation job. It converts the technical log odds into a business-friendly probability that we can use to say things like, this customer has a 78% chance of churning, or this payment has only a 5% chance of default. That probability is what powers risk scores, priority queues, and targeted actions in real operations. Now we come to step 5 in the logistic regression forecasting process. Set the classification threshold. By this stage, the model gives us a probability for each case. For example, this customer has a 0.62 or 62% chance of churning. But in the real world, we often need a yes or no decision. Do we treat this customer as high risk or not? Do we send this lead to sales or not? To do that, we set a threshold on the probability. The default threshold is 0.5. If P is greater than or equal to 0.5, we classify as event is equal to yes. For example, customer will churn. If P is less than 0.5, we classify as event is equal to no. Customer will not churn. However, in many business cases, we adjust this threshold depending on our priorities. If we want high-sensitivity risk detection, for example, in fraud, default, or churn prevention, we may set the threshold lower, say 0.3. That means we flag more customers as risky, catching more true risks, but also accepting more false alarms. If we want high-precision sales conversions, for example, only passing very strong leads to an expensive sales team. We may set the threshold higher, such as 0.7. That means we only act on customers with a very high predicted probability, reducing false positives but missing some borderline opportunities. So, step 5 is all about tuning the threshold to match your business objective. Lower thresholds for maximum sensitivity in risk and safety use cases. Higher thresholds for maximum precision in costly or premium interventions. The model gives you the probabilities. The threshold decision determines how aggressive or conservative your actions will be. Now we move to step 6 in the logistic regression forecasting process. Evaluate model performance. Building a model is not enough. We must check how well it is actually working before we trust it in production. We do this using a set of classification performance metrics. 1. Accuracy. Accuracy tells us what percentage of all predictions were correct. It answers the question: out of all customers, how many did we classify correctly as churn or no churn? It's useful, but can be misleading when classes are imbalanced. 2. Precision and recall. These two always go together. Precision answers: out of all customers we predicted as churners, how many actually churned? High precision means few false positives. Recall answers: out of all customers who actually churned, how many did we correctly identify? High recall means we are catching most of the true events. 3. F1 score. The F1 score is the harmonic mean of precision and recall. It balances both and is especially useful when you care about both missing events and raising false alarms. 4. ROC curve. The ROC curve, receiver operating characteristic, shows how the true positive rate and false positive rate change as we move the classification threshold. It helps us understand the trade-off between sensitivity and false alarms across different threshold settings. 5. AUC area under the curve. The AUC is a single number that summarizes the ROC curve. It tells us how well the model separates the two classes. For example, churners versus non-churners. An AUC near 0.5 means the model is no better than random. An AUC closer to 1.0 means the model has strong discrimination power. So, in step 6, we use accuracy, precision, recall, F1 score, ROC, and AUC to decide if the model is good enough for deployment, or if we need to tune the features, adjust the threshold, or try a new modeling approach. Now we move to step 7, forecast future event probability. So far, we've used polynomial regression mainly for forecasting numeric outcomes like volume or AHT. But in many business cases, what we really want is a probability of an event. For example, probability of customer churn, probability of a payment default, probability of a complaint escalation, or probability of conversion in an outbound campaign. Here's how to think about it. Instead of predicting a number like AHT in seconds, we predict a probability value between 0 and 1. So if the model outputs P churn is equal to 0.78, that means the customer has a 78% chance of churning. And operationally, we translate that into an action. A probability like 0.78 is typically classified as high risk, so we should trigger a retention response, such as priority callback by a senior agent, proactive offer or plan adjustment, service recovery workflow, or targeted messaging through digital channels. So the purpose of step 7 is simple: turn a forecast into a decision. If the probability is high, we act early, before churn actually happens. That's how predictive modeling becomes business value. Not just predicting the future, but changing the outcome. Let's look at a real contact center use case for logistic regression. Customer churn prediction. In this scenario, our goal is to predict which customers are likely to leave, so we can intervene before they actually churn. We use signals such as repeated complaints. Customers who contact us again and again with issues are often frustrated and at risk. Low CSAT scores, poor satisfaction ratings clearly indicate unhappy customers. High wait times, long queues and repeated delays damage the customer experience and push people towards churn. Product failure history, frequent breakdowns, returns, or service issues can erode trust in the brand. We feed these predictors into a logistic regression model. The model then calculates, for each customer, a probability of churn. For example, P of churn is equal to 0.82 or 82%. When that probability crosses a risk threshold, we label the customer as high churn risk. This immediately triggers a retention intervention, such as proactive outreach from a special care team, a personalized apology and resolution for their issues, or a targeted offer or service fix to restore confidence. In this way, logistic regression acts like a churn radar for the contact center. It helps us spot who is likely to leave early, so we can step in, fix the experience, and keep the customer before it's too late. Now let's look at another powerful contact center use case for logistic regression. Call escalation forecasting. In this scenario, our goal is to predict the likelihood that a live call will escalate to a supervisor. If we can see escalation risk early, we can coach the agent in real time or route the call smartly. We use several key predictors. Sentiment score. Using speech analytics or text sentiment, we measure whether the customer sounds happy, neutral, or negative. A strongly negative sentiment score usually means higher escalation risk. Silence duration. Long or frequent silences can indicate confusion, frustration, or system slowdowns. These moments often push customers to say, "I want to talk to your supervisor." Previous escalations. If this customer has escalated calls in the past, their baseline risk for escalation is higher. History is a powerful predictor of future behavior. Agent experience. Newer or less experienced agents may be more likely to face escalations, while senior agents can diffuse difficult situations more effectively. Issue category. Certain issues such as billing disputes, service outages, or repeated failures naturally carry a higher escalation risk than simple how-to queries. We feed these predictors into a logistic regression model, which calculates, for each active interaction, a probability of escalation. For example, P of escalation is equal to 0.75 or 75%. If that probability crosses a risk threshold, we can trigger real-time actions such as pushing on-screen guidance to the agent, auto-alerting a floor supervisor to monitor the call, or even smart routing the interaction earlier to a senior agent. This turns the contact center from being reactive, only dealing with escalations after they happen, into being proactive, predicting which calls are likely to escalate and intervening before the situation explodes. Now let's look at one of the classic applications of logistic regression in risk analytics. Payment default prediction. In this use case, our key question is simple. Will a user default on their payment or not? The outcome is binary. 1 is equal to default. 0 is equal to no default. Logistic regression is widely used in credit risk and collections because it can convert customer behavior and financial history into a clear probability of default. For each customer or account, the model processes all the predictors. Things like past payment behavior, outstanding balance, income band, delinquency history, and utilization, and produces a default probability. For example, the model might output probability of default is equal to 0.63. That means there is a 63% chance this user will default in the defined time window. Once we have that probability, we can classify this account as high risk, prioritize it for early reminder calls or messages, tighten credit limits or exposure, or move it into a special monitoring or collections strategy. So, in payment default prediction, logistic regression acts as a risk radar. It does not just say default or no default. It gives us a numeric risk score that helps us rank customers, manage exposure, and deploy collections resources more intelligently. Now let's look at attrition forecasting in the context of HR analytics using logistic regression. Here, our goal is to predict which agents are likely to leave the organization so that HR and operations can take preventive action. We use a set of powerful predictors such as overtime hours. Consistently high overtime is often a sign of overwork and burnout. The more overtime an agent does, the higher the attrition risk can become. Agent stress index. This could be derived from surveys, sentiment analysis, or workload indicators. A higher stress index usually points to frustration and fatigue, and therefore a greater likelihood of resignation. Absenteeism. Frequent unplanned absences are a classic warning sign. They often show that an agent is disengaged, actively job hunting, or mentally checked out from the role. Tenure. How long the agent has been with the company matters. Very new hires may leave quickly if the role is not a good fit, while mid-tenure staff might leave for better opportunities. The model learns how tenure relates to attrition in your specific environment. Performance. Performance ratings or KPI scores can also be predictive. Very low performers may be on performance plans or may choose to leave, while very high performers might attract external offers. We feed these predictors into a logistic regression model, which computes an attrition probability for every agent. Output. For each agent, the model generates a value like P of attrition is equal to 0.71, a 71% chance that this agent will resign in the next defined period, such as the next 3 or 6 months. We can then convert this probability into risk bands, for example, above 0.70 high attrition risk, between 0.40 and 0.70 medium risk, below 0.40 low risk. Once agents are tagged by risk level, HR and leadership can plan targeted interventions such as workload balancing, stress management and wellness programs, focused one-on-ones, coaching, or development plans, and proactive replacement hiring where risk is very high. In this way, logistic regression turns attrition from a surprise into a forecastable, manageable risk, giving HR and operations teams the time and insight they need to protect talent and stabilize the workforce. Now let's look at another powerful use case for logistic regression: sales conversion forecasting. Here, our goal is to predict the likelihood that a potential lead will convert into a sale, instead of guessing which leads to prioritize. We use data to estimate conversion probability for each lead. We feed in key predictors such as intent score. This could come from digital behavior, website activity, or campaign responses. A higher intent score usually means the lead is more interested and ready to buy. Past behavior. Has the lead opened emails, clicked links, visited pricing pages, or booked demos before? These actions are strong signals that conversion likelihood is higher. Qualification stage. Where is the lead in the funnel? For example, new lead, qualified, proposal sent, or negotiation. Leads in later stages typically have a higher probability of closing. Sales calls completed. The number and quality of sales interactions matter. More completed, meaningful calls often increase the chance of moving to a successful close. Logistic regression combines these predictors and outputs for each lead, a conversion probability. For example, this lead has a 0.81 or 81% chance of converting. With this, we can prioritize high-probability leads for immediate follow-up, assign top reps to high-value, high-likelihood opportunities, and design different playbooks for low, medium, and high-conversion bands. In short, sales conversion forecasting with logistic regression turns the pipeline from intuition-driven to data-driven, helping teams focus their time where it has the highest chance of winning revenue. Let's now summarize the key advantages of logistic regression and why it's so popular in analytics and AI. First, it's easy to interpret. Logistic regression gives us coefficients and odds ratios that clearly explain how each predictor affects the event probability. We can say things like, if this variable increases by 1 unit, the odds of churn roughly double. That level of clarity and explainability is extremely valuable in business reviews and governance forums. Second, it handles multiple predictor types. Logistic regression can work with numeric variables like HT, revenue, or age, and categorical variables like issue type, channel, region, or agent skill level. This flexibility makes it suitable for real-world datasets, which are almost always mixed. Third, it's fast and computationally efficient. Logistic regression scales very well, even on huge datasets with thousands or millions of records. It trains quickly, is easy to deploy, and doesn't require massive compute resources. Fourth, it provides probability scores, not just hard labels. Instead of giving only yes or no, it outputs a probability, such as, there is a 73% chance this payment will default. These probability scores are perfect for setting decision thresholds, creating risk bands, and driving prioritization logic in operations. Fifth, it forms the foundation of more advanced machine learning models. Many modern techniques such as neural networks, gradient boosting, and ensemble methods either build on the same core ideas or use logistic-style outputs internally. A solid understanding of logistic regression makes it much easier to design, tune, and interpret these more advanced ML systems. So, in summary, logistic regression is interpretable, flexible, fast, probability-focused, and foundational, which is why it remains one of the most widely used tools in predictive analytics and AI-driven decision-making. Just like any other model, logistic regression has some important limitations you need to be aware of. First limitation, it only models linear relationships in log odds. Logistic regression assumes that the log odds of the event are a linear combination of the predictors. If the underlying system is strongly nonlinear, this simple structure may not capture it well. In such cases, we either have to add polynomial terms or interaction terms, or move to more flexible machine learning models like trees, ensembles, or neural networks. Second limitation, it is not suitable for forecasting continuous numbers. Logistic regression is designed for classification forecasting, where the outcome is event versus no event, or one category versus another. If you want to forecast continuous metrics like call volume, AHT, or revenue, then linear regression or time series models are a better fit. Third limitation, it is sensitive to multicollinearity. When many predictors are strongly correlated with each other, the coefficients can become unstable and hard to interpret. Small changes in the data can cause large swings in the estimated impact. That's why predictors must be carefully cleaned, selected, or regularized before using logistic regression. Fourth limitation, it works best with reasonably balanced datasets. If the event you're predicting is very rare, for example, only 1% of customers churn, standard logistic regression may mostly learn to say no event and still look accurate. In such imbalanced datasets, we often need to use techniques like resampling, SMOTE, class weighting, or specialized algorithms that are designed for rare event modeling. So, while logistic regression is a powerful and widely used tool, remember its main limitations. It assumes linear relationships in log odds. It is not for continuous number forecasting. It is sensitive to multicollinearity, and it struggles with extremely imbalanced data unless we treat the dataset carefully. Knowing these boundaries helps you choose when logistic regression is the right tool, and when you should reach for more advanced or specialized models instead. Let's now look at some powerful extensions of logistic regression that help us handle more complex, real-world situations. First, polynomial logistic regression. Standard logistic regression assumes a linear relationship in log odds. But many systems are nonlinear. With polynomial logistic regression, we add nonlinear transformations of variables, such as squared terms, x superscript 2, or even x superscript 3. This allows the model to capture curves and saturation effects. For example, risk rising quickly at first and then flattening. Second, regularized logistic regression. When we have many predictors or multicollinearity, we use regularization to stabilize the model. L1 regularization, or lasso, pushes some coefficients all the way down to zero. This effectively performs feature selection, keeping only the most important predictors. L2 regularization, or ridge, shrinks coefficients but doesn't force them to zero. It improves stability and helps control multicollinearity. Regularized logistic regression is very useful in high-dimensional, noisy datasets. Third, logistic regression with interaction terms. Sometimes, the combined effect of two variables is different from the sum of their individual effects. For example, high wait time plus low CSAT together might explode churn risk. By adding interaction terms, like x times x, we allow the model to capture these synergy or conflict effects between drivers. Fourth, time-dependent logistic regression. Many events unfold over time. For example, the probability that an agent quits in each month of tenure, or the chance that a customer escalates after a sequence of contacts. Time-dependent logistic regression incorporates time or sequence information, so we can forecast event probabilities step by step over a timeline. Fifth, logistic regression plus time series, hybrid models. In forecasting, we often want both trend over time and drivers like behavior, campaigns, or pricing. Hybrid models combine logistic regression with time series components, We predict event probability using time trend plus external drivers. For example, we might model P, churn, as a function of tenure, recent usage, seasonality, and macro trends in the market. In summary, these extensions: polynomial logistic regression, regularized logistic regression, interaction terms, time-dependent logistic regression, and hybrid time series combinations, take the core logistic regression framework and make it much more powerful and flexible for modern forecasting and risk analytics. Now let's compare logistic regression, linear regression, and time series models like ARIMA or SARIMA, and understand where each one fits in forecasting and analytics. We'll compare them across 4 features: what they predict, their output range, typical use cases, and how they handle nonlinearity and temporal patterns. First, what do they predict? Logistic regression predicts a probability or a class. For example, will the customer churn? Yes or no? It outputs a likelihood, which we can turn into a classification. Linear regression predicts a continuous value. For example, what will AHT be next month? Or what will the call volume be? Time series models like ARIMA or SARIMA predict temporal patterns. They focus on how a value evolves over time, capturing trends and seasonality. Second, output range. Logistic regression outputs values between 0 and 1, making them valid probabilities. Linear regression outputs values from -infinity to +infinity, which is fine for many numeric metrics, but not suitable for direct probabilities. Time series models have an output range that depends on the specific model, but generally produce continuous numeric forecasts over time. Third, typical use cases. Use logistic regression for churn, conversion, escalation, default, or attrition. Anywhere the outcome is event versus no event, or categorical. Use linear regression for AHT, volume, revenue, cost, duration, handle time. Any continuous numeric metric you want to forecast or explain. Use time series models for seasonal and trend forecasting. For example, monthly call volumes, daily revenue, or weekly ticket counts, where time itself is the primary driver. Fourth, handling nonlinearity and time patterns. Logistic regression has limited ability to handle nonlinearity on its own. You can add transformations or interaction terms, but it's not a deep nonlinear model. Linear regression also does not naturally handle nonlinearity. It assumes a straight-line relationship between predictors and the outcome. Time series models like ARIMA and SARIMA are designed to handle trend and seasonality over time. They are very good at modeling temporal structure, but still assume a mostly linear relationship in how past values affect future values. The key message is: logistic regression, linear regression, and time series models are not competitors, they are complements. Use linear regression when you want to forecast continuous metrics. Use logistic regression when you want event probabilities and classifications. Use time series models when time patterns like trend and seasonality are central. In mature analytics and forecasting setups, we often use all 3 together, each one solving the type of problem it is best suited for. Let's wrap up with the key takeaways about logistic regression. First, logistic regression is designed to predict the probability of an event, not a numeric value. It answers questions like: how likely is this customer to churn, escalate, default, convert, or resign? Second, it uses the sigmoid, or logistic, function. To convert a linear combination of predictors into a probability between 0 and 1. The model works in log-odds space internally. But the sigmoid function converts that into a clean, usable probability. Third, logistic regression is best suited for forecasting churn, escalation, attrition, payment default, and sales conversion. All problems where the outcome is event versus no event. Fourth, interpretation through odds ratios makes logistic regression highly explainable. We can clearly say, if this predictor increases by 1 unit, the odds of the event multiply by this factor. That level of transparency is crucial for stakeholders, regulators, and governance. Fifth, logistic regression models must be evaluated using classification metrics such as ROC curve, AUC, precision, recall, and the F1 score. These metrics tell us how well the model separates events from non-events and whether it is suitable for real-world deployment. Sixth, logistic regression is not just an end in itself. It serves as a building block for advanced AI models. Many modern techniques, including neural networks and gradient boosting, build on the same ideas of weighted inputs and probabilistic outputs. So, in summary, logistic regression gives us a probability-focused, interpretable, and scalable framework for event forecasting, and it forms a core foundation for more advanced machine learning in contact centers and beyond. Thanks for watching my YouTube channel, Contact Center Knowledge Hub. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights. See you in the next video.